Hey everybody, welcome back to Almost Sideways. My name is Adam and I have a very special guest with me today because we are interviewing different content creators here on YouTube. And if you would like to watch the full YouTube video, make sure you subscribe to this channel here, Almost Sideways, as well as my special guest. Her links will be in the show notes down below. But also, if you would like to hear audio versions of this episode, make sure you guys check out Apple, Spotify, Pandora, and Stitcher, where we're at the Almost Sideways movie podcast. Without further, let me get the screen off here first. Without further ado, I just introduced my guest right there. This is Ashley, the movie oracle. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thanks.
Where can we find you on YouTube and social media?
I am the movie oracle on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr, which I don't really use that often, but I am there. So
there we go. Well, what's funny is before we started this, you said that your cord for your mic went out. Well, my wireless mouse, this one like hectic, so I'm like trying to do with my like this thumb pad, and I'm like horrible at that. I'm like going super slow, and I'm like, But anyway, technology.
I don't know why. I feel like we're already getting to Matrix point or Terminator point because I think technology knows what it's doing because it always manages to crap out right when you need it, like it does it on purpose.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, this mouse isn't like this is my wireless mouse, but it's not like it's brand new. I just got it yesterday, but hey, whatever. I guess whatever. It wasn't meant to be today.
Rise of the wireless mouses.
Yeah, I know, right? You think they're convenient, but they're not. They're tricky. Well, so I think we've known each other for a couple years, it's Twitter and watching videos and stuff like that. We've never actually had been on camera together, so it's awesome for you to be here and join me today. I guess the first question really is you're a content creator on YouTube who focuses on movies and TVs. What kind of got you into wanting to talk about that on the internet?
I practically grew up in video stores. My brother, I think, started working in a video store at the age of 14 or 16. And so I basically spent all my time in the video store and, walking up and like, these are all the videos I want. And, at first he was like, yeah, I'm not renting those for you. I'm like, why not? He says, I'm not putting Barney movies on my account. That's not happening. And I'm like, but I really want them. And he's like, fine, you can have two. He's like, but you got to go get something else. I'm like, can I get the horror movies? No, you cannot. Damn it. So I just grew up surrounded by movies. My brother's room was basically a movie library in itself with his numerous shelves filled with VHS tapes and his walls surrounded by movie posters. And yeah. I mean, like, he took care of them. Like, he had them put professionally on wooden backboards so they would never bend or break or any of that crap. So I was always around movies. So I always loved movies and I was always talking about movies to the point that as I was getting older, anytime people were like, I'm having a slumber party, what movies should I watch? I'm like, okie dokie, here's a list for you, go have fun. I became like the movie expert to everybody, even in school, even though like I wasn't popular and I barely had any friends. But if the subject of movies came up, suddenly people wanted to talk to me.
They're like, who do we know that knows movies? Let's go to that one girl that she knows movies.
Yeah, that's exactly how it was. And then I would kind of, when social media came along, I'd watch a movie or a show and then I'd post about it on Facebook. And I guess I just saw myself as like talking about it and people like, you kind of like post reviews. I'm like, is that what I'm doing? I'm like, I just thought I was bitching about Jezebel or whatever, but okay. And then I had a friend who lives in Texas and he said, you should do reviews for movies on YouTube. I'm like, no, thank you. I'm good where I am. And he's like, no, you're good at talking about this stuff and you know what you're talking about. And he even said, he's like, you're like the movie oracle. He's like, because you kind of know everything. And I'm just like, okay. And then that's basically, I eventually summoned the guts to do it. And the first thing I did was I love TV shows about the supernatural and witches specifically, with Charm being my favorite. So I just went, okay, I'm going to do a video counting down TV shows all about witches. And I spent a couple months working on that before I felt confident jumping in front of a camera. And that was the first thing I ever did. And I'm like, maybe I can do this. But it wasn't like another year until I felt really comfortable in front of a camera. And now I really just don't give a shit.
Right on. Right. I was actually going to ask you about the how you got your name, but that kind of that opening into that gateway of the gateway drugs of movies and TV kind of really got you into that. That's awesome. That's pretty cool how it worked out. What your brother worked at a video store. Is this like a kind of a mom and pop shop, or was this like I'm not sure how it is in Australia. Is there was there Blockbusters or Hollywood Video? Not Hollywood. Well, video. What kind of video stores were there down there?
We did have Blockbuster. There might still be a couple left. I was just out in kind of like the country part of Australia in the weekend, and we drove past this small town, and my brother's like, "Oh, look, a video store." I'm like, "Oh, they still have them out here." I'm like, we need to leave the metropolis area. Like, no, metropolitan's bad. No, we need to go back into the country. They've still got video stores. But no, he worked at, I'm pretty sure it was an Australian video store chain called Video Busters, had its own jingle and everything. And yeah, he worked there. So I basically grew up in Video Busters because it was literally right down the road from my house. So you could like walk there.
Nice. Well, I know if anybody follows you on Instagram or even Facebook or Twitter, they know you know jingles. You know the Video Busters jingle by heart. And are you willing to share that?
Oh my god!
A video.
I can I can hear it in my head, but I don't remember the exact words. But there was something like nothing on TV tonight. Video Busters, it's all right, like something like that.
Okay, that's perfect. That's awesome. When you go into these video stores, was there a specific movie that you would always go back to, or when you were just like, I'm just going to try one of everything eventually? Or was there a movie that you always kept on wanting to rent multiple times?
Well, no, I didn't really have to rent the same stuff over and over again too often because I would just go to my brother's room for that.
Well, that's a good point, yeah.
But I mean, I've spent a lot of time like trying to secretly look at all the horror movie covers because they were like the forbidden films for me. And I'm like, they look so cool and I want them. But you know, even as I was getting older, I still loved going into the kiddie section. I'm like, what kids film can I get today? Yeah, exactly. I still love kiddie films. It was like the two sides of my personality. You're either going to find me in the kids section or the horror section.
That's awesome. I remember growing up, we had a Hollywood Video because I grew up in Anaheim, California, which is about like 15 minutes, about an hour, 15 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic, to Los Angeles. And we used to go to Hollywood Video all the time. I remember this one time on Halloween, we went and did a double feature, my mom and I, and we did Alien 3 and Starship Troopers. That was a double feature. And I got scared because I was I don't know how old I was. It was like 1997, so I was about 8 years old or something like that. But it was a good double feature, and I rewatched Alien 3, you know, as you do, and I'm like, this was not as good as it was when I was a kid. It's kind of funny how that was the scariest movie ever growing up.
I didn't find a lot of movies scary as a child. I think, oddly enough, I think a lot of the films I watched that ended up being like kind of in the horror fantasy genre. As a child, I honest to God thought the reason why I needed to hide the fact I was watching them was because I was watching porn. I actually believed that they were porn. So I was wrong though. Except Showgirls, I was kind of right there, but
funny, that's a funny movie you bring up because we have a guy on our podcast too that he always brings up the fact that this one foreign director always would say the best movie of the 90s is Showgirls, and like that's like the fun fact that he always pulls out. So I'm always curious about watching Showgirls. I might watch it one day. I know how it's not good, but it's funny that you bring
love that film.
Oh, okay. Then I didn't mean I haven't seen it, so I was going off the consensus. Maybe I don't know.
I know that there are a lot of people who hate it. Fortunately, I know a fair few people who do. It is quite the cult classic now. I think that there's something so meta about it, and if you kind of look past the nudity and the stripping and all that stuff, there's actually stuff that's very empowering in how it very carefully tries to depict its women and kind of their storylines. Yeah, you just got to look over the naked part.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of interesting way to kind of look at things, and that's pretty awesome. Again, it's one of those movies that I haven't never seen before, but I've been doing segments on here now, first time watches. So I'm trying to catch up on some like these bigger movies that are kind of glaring omissions of that might be one I have to put on my list to do sooner rather than later. Anyway, let's see here. I lost track of my question. Here we go. I'm not
going anywhere. It's all good.
Okay. All right. So growing up, you know, there was 2 movies that you said you were going for, Barney and the horror. What made you kind of go towards the horror genre?
I don't know. Like the closest things that I watched to horror as a kid, it's not horror, it's black comedy, but that was Death Becomes Her. But that I think was kind of like my introductory film to kind of the dark and macabre, and I found them fascinating. And to a degree, they're very, well, not to a degree, they're very cathartic, you know, because you watch them and you're addressing, you know, either things that are very bad in the very real world, or you're just dealing with things that are irrational/rational fears that we have. And you get to kind of confront them in this safe environment, because a film ultimately is not going to hurt you. Guaranteed, there are some children who are going to watch something like Pennywise the Clown and are going to forever be terrified of clowns. I was not one of those. I could watch things as a kid, and they would only scare me if they attributed to something that I was already scared of. But outside of that, I never had a film where I'm like, that film traumatized me for life. No, I was fine.
No, nice. Yeah, you're saying like the ocean has always been something that's kind of like, I don't like to go swim in the ocean, and it also goes back to like Jaws, being like, don't like that, but then also watching Jaws and like, definitely not doing that unless I pay like big money to go to like the tropical location. I'm like, well, I gotta do it. Whatever. There's worse ways to go. Anyway, was there anything like that when you're watching a film, was there anything that kind of related back to like, oh, I'm already scared of this, but this kind of just added on to it, like the feel like of clowns or anything like that?
Yeah, Darkness Falls, which is an Australian American horror film, and it's about the Tooth Fairy, but it's more of like she's meant to have been a real person and she died, and she comes back and she kind of does the same thing she did in real life, which is you lose a tooth, she gives you money, but the difference is if you see her, she will kill you. But it was the fact that she can only get you in the dark. As long as you're in the light, you're fine. So this film really played on the fact that I was terrified of the dark. And I still, to a degree, am. Like, if I go to the kitchen in the middle of the night, I have to turn on all the lights because suddenly I feel like there's something behind me. And I'm just like, no, not okay. Okay, light switch. Okay, we're good. Okay, I'm okay. No fairies are coming after me. But yeah, that, and I don't really know where it came from, but I've just kind of always found faces without emotional expressions quite terrifying. So the fact that the Tooth Fairy in this also wears this porcelain mask, which means she has no facial expressions. So add that to In the Dark, and I'm like, well, great. This is a traumatizing film. But the more I watched it as I got older, I'm like, oh, it's not so bad. But as a kid, I was like, yeah.
Was that on your top 10 horror masks list? Is that okay? Yeah, okay. Because I was like, that movie sounds familiar. But I think that's, and then you said, I was like, that's where I've heard it from. I haven't seen it. But yeah, you're into horror movies quite a bit, and obviously October just passed, and you went on like this huge horror spree. How did that go for you? And obviously you're still here, not completely insane yet, but
that's debatable. That's debatable.
I wanted you to say that, not me. Okay.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I've got to admit to my own problems. Yes, that's AA 101. Honestly, did not go great, and I am extremely disappointed in myself.
Oh.
I did not beat my record from last year. I started a little late, 24 hours late, and then I kind of kept getting distracted, and my mom at the time was just recovering from her second knee replacement surgery, so I did have to keep stopping to go and look after her, so that killed a lot of time. And then I was a guest on a couple of podcasts, so that killed some time. And then I had to try and record a couple of my recap videos, and I gave up after 2 or 3 because that would kill like an entire day. Yeah. So I only ended up watching 188 films in 31 days instead of 206, which I was meant to hit.
Only 188. So you say that like, oh God, I hardly got into anything. Yeah, that's like quite a bit. I know you always post stuff on Twitter and stuff like that with like little brief ratings and stuff. Like, man, I don't even heard of this movie before. How do you come up with like finding this many movies to go after?
Sometimes I will see another person post a horror film, whether it be the poster or they'll have watched it and they'll post the DVD or whatever. It's like hashtag now watching. Oh, yeah. And I'm just like, this poster looks interesting. I shall add it to my list. But mostly my number one thing is I look up the over 100,000 movie list of horror films on IMDb, and I just scroll through every single one. Guaranteed. I don't think I've got past 3,000 pages yet, so I've still got plenty of films to choose from. But yeah, I would go through there, and if a poster looked interesting, I'm like, I'm intrigued, I'll throw you down. If a synopsis sounds interesting, I'll throw it down. Or sometimes the synopsis sounds absolutely ridiculous, and I'm like, I definitely have to watch this. So yeah, just keep going and then write everything down, and then I have to go and alphabetize it because I'm that neurotic.
You got to watch it in order by alphabet. That's good. I like it. I think, what was like the highlight of this experience? What was like the few couple movies that you were like, it was worth it for those ones?
I don't know. This year was kind of pretty crappy, to be honest. A film that I came across was the Postcard Killings. That one. I wanted to see that. Yeah. That one I actually really enjoyed because that one's not horror, it's more psychological thriller, but it's the first film that I'd seen in a while dealing with the subject of like serial killers, where it looked like they really took their time with establishing, modus operandi and the psychology of the killers, and that part I find very interesting, whereas a lot of times like, here's a killer and they're killing people. The end. I'm like, well, that's boring, but thank you. And I finally got to watch Halloween 2018, and I realized why everybody was praising it, because it was freaking awesome.
Yeah, it was. It's a great film. I love it a lot. It's a good one. I'm trying to think. So you're putting all this content out for all those films as best you can, all these different lists. When we're going back to when you first started, when you're going with your favorite TV witches, you're bringing up like shows like Charmed. What got you into Charmed to be such a mega fan of it? Because I have no idea anything about this show other than there's.
Well, I'm ending this podcast right now. Okay.
I'm sorry. I want to talk to you. Charmed.
I'm kidding.
I know.
I just remember 1998, this trailer for this TV show. It just felt and looked and sounded so magical that it kind of immediately captured my attention. I'm like, I have to watch this. And I did, and I never stopped. And then I think it wasn't until season 2 or 3 I started recording every episode and keeping every episode. And then by the time season 3 or 4 came along, we had cable TV, and one of the stations had Charmed, and they started from the very beginning, and then they started marathoning them. I'm like, oh my God, I can finally record the entire first season. This is amazing. And I was just hooked on it ever since, because it wasn't just that there was magic and everything, but there were real stories that were, because that was their focus. They focused on family first, the human storylines, and then the magic kind of echoed what was going on in their human lives. But the magic I thought was great. And that the pilot episode, anytime someone asks me what's my favorite episode, I'm like, the first episode will always be my favorite, because it's just the way it opened. Like, it wasn't anything special. It kind of just opened showing a full moon, and there was just this very enchanting sounding score that was playing, and I'm just like, and I'm hooked. Okay, I have not seen any people, nobody has spoken, but I am officially addicted to you. Thank you very much.
That's awesome. It's crazy that you just can do that with a show, like, just from like the opening thing, but it's for the power of like music and themes and stuff like that too. So it's awesome. But as the show goes along, does it get even? Well, I think does it get better and better as it goes along? For people who might not know.
Yeah, it's not without its flaws. I'm one of those people who I can be a fan of something, but I can still criticize when it does something wrong.
Yeah.
Season 1 is still my favorite, because that's like the core of what it was. And season 2 is good. After season 2, the creator of the show left the show due to creative differences. And things did start to go a little in a bit of a different direction. And then by season 6 or season 7, the show started dealing with severe budget cuts, which really affected the storylines.
Yeah.
And I wasn't that big a fan of season 6. Season 7 had minor improvements, but there were still things in there I didn't like. Season 8, in my humble opinion, was the worst season, and it was its last season. So kind of like Game of Thrones, start on a high, end on a low, that kind of deal.
Yeah, it's great memory to relive there. I was a huge fan of Game of Thrones, man. It's just that unfortunate how fastly rushed that season was. And then
you can understand my pain.
Yeah, exactly. We won't talk about Game of Thrones. That's so 2019. It's crazy though when you get like you say like the first season's like the best. Like a show that I could think that the first season's like absolutely fantastic, some of the best television I've ever watched, and then it just completely goes downhill. It's like the TV show Heroes. I'm not sure if you remember that show.
I do.
Yeah, that first season was great, and then the writer's strike happened, and then like what actually happened? Like they just completely went off the rails for me. And it's just like I've watched the season, like all 4 seasons at least twice through, and it's like, why did I just do that again? Like I should just watch the first season and just like completely stop watching it. That's cool.
I feel it with a lot of shows, that guaranteed that there are shows where it's like, I love this show in its entirety. It's like, but I will still think that the first season is the superior season, because it feels like that's the season where it's the most organic. Like they know what they want to do and they set out to do it. And then afterwards, sometimes they forget where they started. They go off in different directions. And then you start to see like continuity issues and things like that. Like for me with Buffy, I love the first 2 seasons. It's as soon as she heads off to college where I'm just like, and you kind of lost me. I mean, I don't say that, I hated it after that. It's just I did not love the show or the character the same after that. And the same was true of the spin-off Angel. The first couple of seasons were my favorite. And then they also went in some crazy directions. And then it just abruptly ended. It ended with 5 seasons, and the funny thing is that Joss Whedon was the last one to find out.
Nice.
Like, apparently it had been announced to everybody. It had already been made public information, but Joss Whedon hadn't been told that his show had been cancelled. And because they didn't know that, the show never had a proper ending. It ended in this big battle, but it had established like these like demonic organizations, and there was like this conspiracy thing, and there's like world domination, and then it's like, oh, we're going to like totally eradicate all these people, and like pretty much the last scene is just like kind of like Lord of the Rings, like ogres and soldiers kind of merging together, like this kind of moment, and then fades to black. And because they were planning to kind of sort that all out in season 6, and then it's like, oh no, you got cancelled. It's like, what? Oh,
wow, that's heartbreaking. That sounded fantastic.
Yeah, they did this. They did the same thing with Dark Angel as well, which was how I first fell in love with Jessica Alba. I love that TV show so much. And they had started establishing all this stuff, which was explaining like why her character even exists. And they're like, yep, we plan to flesh this all out in the 3rd season. They're like, oh, by the way, you're cancelled. It's like, well, great. Now we don't have any questions, answers to anything that happened in season 2. Thank you very much.
It's kind of like that scene after in the movie Burn After Reading. It's like, so did we learn anything? Nope. Well, just save it on the back burner. We'll come back to it later. Something like that. We'll come back to it later. All right. Yeah. So TV shows for me, I like TV, but I've always been like kind of a movie person. My wife's more of a TV fan. So if we're choosing something, like we'll kind of alternate back and forth and we'll binge series. But like a lot of the shows that you're mentioning, I've never actually seen before. So shame on me. But they sound like those sound really interesting. It's just a bummer that the studio either meddled or creative differences or into the show when there was an interesting point they were trying to go. Was there something that's been like really, when you're watching these shows, is that something that just like really just like drives you crazy at times?
Yeah, cliffhangers are my number one pet peeve when it comes to TV shows. Like it's totally fine if it ends on a cliffhanger and then they are going to and do get to address it in the next season. But if a cliffhanger almost always happens because the people creating the show don't know their show is about to get cancelled. Yeah. And it's like, if you know for a fact you're getting another season, I say go for it with the cliffhanger. Yeah. But if you're living in, we don't know until the season's over if we're getting one, don't write cliffhangers. Address everything now. You may not get another opportunity. Because so many shows that I've loved have been absolutely destroyed thanks to a cliffhanger. Marvel's Agent Carter is one of them that should never have been canceled. It, for me, was my favorite Marvel spin-off TV series. Yeah. Peggy Carter was just amazing. And yay! She ended on a cliffhanger and then got canceled. So thanks.
And yeah, that's the word. And then also they do that for movies all the time, especially with these big franchises. Like, we're going to make several more. No, you're not. No, it's like Hellboy, like this latest Hellboy version. That's not going to get a sequel. Or that's the one that's the one I go to. There's so many other movies that try to set up bigger universes, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, the Mummy, the Tom Cruise Mummy film. They had this they announced we're going to make this big giant dark universe. At one film, you cancel. You cancel. If
you're going to establish a universe like that, make sure your first film is good.
Yeah, exactly. The funny that film, I went to it opening night, as you do as a YouTuber, to try to get that review out as fast as you can. Sure. I'm sitting there and I'm hearing like some weird background noise. I look back, there's a guy snoring by like 3 rows back. I was like, oh god, this is gonna be one of these nights, huh? I'm like, I don't blame the guy. He probably enjoyed the movie more than I did from sleep.
I don't. I know that there are some people who, when they go into a movie theater, will actually take a notepad and write notes for the purpose of reviewing. I don't do that. I kind of keep a dialogue in my head and try to remember that later on. But I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't stop to write anything down because then I'm not paying attention to the film. But with The Mummy, so many things were happening that I hated that I grabbed a pen out of my bag and just started writing on my arm and hand. I'm like, and there's this, and oh, and then they just did that. I must definitely bitch about that. And then, I'm like, I'm running out of skin. I don't know what else to say. And then I'm trying to remember it later on. I'm pretty sure when I finished writing my review, I'm like, damn it, and I forgot to say that, and that. Bugger. But,
yeah. That's the frustrating part after you're editing. I'm like, man, I should say that. Should I go back? Yeah, the my goodness, The Mummy. You just like you're in the theater and you come out with a full arm tattoo. It's like, what the heck happened in there? That movie is kind of just all over the place. I hated that they did a callback to Brendan Fraser's Mummy movies. It's like
there's one part of me where I was like, yay, I like seeing those books again. But then I'm like, but that is so confusing.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
They're trying to.
Yeah.
They were trying to backdoor the Brendan Fraser mummies into this universe. After it's like that wasn't in your intention at all. Don't be doing that.
Yeah, it's sad. There have been films that I know that the masses disliked, so I understand why they failed. But I personally really liked them, so I was really upset when they didn't get the sequels that they had intended, like when they adapted the Aragon books or the I Am Number 4. I actually really
wanted to see that. I liked it too.
Yeah, I really liked the film. I'd never actually read the book, so I'm pretty sure there were some book fans who were like, no, that's not what happened. But I'm like, that's every book adaptation, really.
Yeah, exactly.
But I really liked both of those films, so I was really excited to see what was going to happen in the sequels because, again, they leave very open-ended, like, we're going to do more in the next one. And then they're like, oh, well, these films tanked, so we're not doing another one. I'm like, God damn it, it's always the ones I like.
It's always how it happens. I actually, a fun story. My dad actually, for my birthday, he always go out to go see a movie on my birthday, and I wanted to go see I Am Number 4. And he found this theater up here that actually has the seats that move with the camera.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So as the camera swooped in, it goes, your chair moves this way. I'm like, wow, it was definitely an experience that if you're get motion sickness, don't do it. But it was fun for that one time. I was like, yeah, let's not do that again. But that was cool. But it's also like $3 a ticket to go see that. So I was like, glad it was my birthday.
Yeah, I know that 3D, 4D, whatever, how many Ds are called now. We have at least, I think, one. Is it 4D? I don't know anymore. But we've got at least one of those in Victoria. So it's nowhere near me, so I can't go to it. But, it's the chair will move in accordance with the film. If there's something where it's like, oh, we're dropping through the sky, then it's like suddenly air blows at you or splashes water at you, all this stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, that's a bit too much for me. Like 3D is all good and well. I don't do 3D too much because it gives me a headache.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, if I want someone to blow air at me or spray water at me, maybe I'll just go to the beach. I'm at the cinema. I want to be dry and left alone. Thank you very much. But if you're into that, I mean, absolutely go for it. But I don't think that's for me. I'd try it once, but that wouldn't be like something I want to do regularly.
Yeah. Try it once, but it kills this. I guess me watching a movie kills my submersion. Is that the word? Submersion into I don't know. It takes me out of the movie when I have something different happen to me. Like if that get water blown on my face, I'm like, what? Oh, I'm in the theater. I'm not watching this movie. I'm not paying attention to it.
Right.
But, yeah. It'd be kind of interesting to do it once, but yeah, I wouldn't want to do that again. Going back to, go ahead.
No, I think I understand that.
Yeah. Going back to other movies that kind of had plot, Big O Left open-ended. Was there any other movies that you kind of can think of that did that you really enjoyed that you would want to see to go back into that space?
Yeah, but I know for a fact that most of these films are really hated by people, so I know that.
I'm kind of curious about this list now.
Okay, let's see. I've got Catwoman, Elektra,
Okay.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I'm intrigued for that one.
Van Helsing.
I would love that one too.
Dracula Untold.
Yeah.
And it's not really hated, but if they'd done a sequel to Tank Girl, I would totally have been there for it.
Oh, yeah. I remember watching Tank Girl on VHS. Somehow it's like my dad had it, or one of his friends had it, and I was like, this movie is horrible. But of course I'm like a kid in the 90s. I have no idea. Like watching it today, it'd probably be such a great experience now. But back then I was like, what's going on? I have no idea what's happening. But yeah, the first two films, I'm not really interested in going back into the Catwoman or Electric world, but the other ones, yeah, I like those are all films that I had fun with. You know, you can look at us, you have fun with them, and you can look at it like maybe there's some things that aren't so great, but did I have fun with it? Yes, I did. So those ones would be interesting to see back again.
Yeah, I think they're all fun, and Van Helsing I thought was amazing, considering I think it was that film that was meant to start the Dark Universe, and then they're like, well, it didn't do well, so we'll start again. I'm like, but it's such fun.
Yeah.
And it gave a completely different origin story to Van Helsing, to Dracula, to all these characters. And I know that there are people who complain, they're like, well, that's not Dracula's story. I'm like, but we've seen these stories done to death, so why not change it up a bit?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't need to see, the same Dracula over and over again who was a prince or a count or all that stuff, who was a soldier and then now he's not, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like I said, I love Dracula Untold because it showed the human story kind of before the vampire part, and then it kind of showed a little bit more of how that happened. Don't get me wrong, because Bram Stoker's Dracula is like one of my favorite films of all time. Yeah. But this was just a different take on that, and I absolutely adore Luke Evans, so I will just watch him in anything.
It's my
wife. But it's just, I like when people do something different. I remember everybody getting really pissy. Well, they still get pissy, and people need to get over Twilight and hating it so much. It made more money than you ever will in a lifetime. Move on. I love it. I love it. And people like, vampires don't do this. Vampires don't do this. I'm like, vampires aren't fucking real. They can do whatever they want. I like,
that is true.
I'm like, people on one hand, they get so angry that we're seeing the same things done over and over and over again. But the moment someone tries something different, they're like, but that's not, this, so you can't do it. Well, which is it? Do you want people to change stuff or do you not? I personally, even if maybe I don't end up liking a film, if it takes a risk and tries something different, I immediately have an appreciation for it. Like I did not like Dracula 2000 at all. Sorry, Jared Butler, but no, not a good film.
That's the Dracula movie. I totally forgot about that one. Okay, wow.
I don't think it's a good film at all, but they did something different. They actually their story was based more on that people that actually do theorize that Dracula was Judas Iscariot. So you're actually doing something that is kind of mentioned in a lot of historical things and theories. So as soon as I realized that, I'm like, well, I still think the film was bad, but you did try something different. You did actually show you did a bit of research into Dracula as well. So I, for that reason, completely appreciate it. The sequels, however, do not have my appreciation, and they can burn in hell. but that's another story altogether.
Another story for another time. So this funny thing is that I read a tweet. Kind of go back to what you said. Like, if you to remake something, they'll complain that it didn't take risk, or like for the Disney remakes, it was too. It's not like the '90s classic. They didn't take enough. Like, that's a big thing with the Disney, like the Mulan movie. It was they tried to do something different, but they were complaining that it wasn't like the animated film. But why are we making these like remakes? Similar things what you were saying, but it's kind of funny when we're as a YouTuber, you can like a film that gets completely trashed on, but it's like it doesn't matter. It's what I take out of the film. Right. As a person who puts out their opinion on film, how aggravating is this at times that happens?
It's so aggravating. The fact that I get people, and this isn't a joke or an understatement, getting death threats and rape threats because I like Jason X. Sorry if I found it meta and funny, because it was intentional. I don't like Jason Goes to Manhattan because they weren't actually trying to be funny. People like, this film is funny. I'm like, but they weren't trying to be. So that for me is just like, I don't like you then, because for me that's a fail. Yeah. But I mean, but Jason X, I'm like, they did that on purpose. I'm like, they were basically making fun of themselves. People are saying, a lot of things that people bring up, and it's my favorite scene, is the fact that Jason is, killing these holographic camp counselors in a sleeping bag. And it's funny. And people, and I know I had some people saying that because I get so much hate on my Friday the 13th ranking video. It's ridiculous. And one person was hating on me and anyone else who finds that scene funny, saying that it's stupid. And then in the same breath, the film that they said that they loved the most, that I gave a lower ranking for, is actually the film where Jason first did that move. It didn't originate in Jason X. It originated in this other film. It wasn't a hologram. It wasn't a joke. It was person in sleeping bag. He bashes them against a tree. Bang, they're dead. And Jason X just took that and kind of did like a parody of it. But they're like,
exactly.
It's something he's already done. So the fact that I had someone hating on me for enjoying them parodying something, and then they're like, but this film's the best. I'm like, but you just hated on something that's in that film. So I'm not following your logic right now. I mean, I recently just had someone, because I turned off likes. I mean, obviously you can still like and dislike a video that has them turned off, but you can't see the number on the icon. And I turned off the comments because after a year, I was really getting sick of that shit. And I'm like, you know what? I actually don't have to take this. So bye-bye. Yeah. But one person hated my ranking so much that they decided to go to my recent At the Time video to leave me a string of hate, and with the worst grammar ever. And he actually said the words, "I hate you because you like Jason X and nobody likes Jason X." I'm like, you don't know many people.
Yeah.
I'm like, because I know plenty who do. I know there are plenty of people who don't, but that's neither here nor there. It's like, he's like, you're the only person. I'm like, oh really? You've met all like 16 billion people on planet Earth, have you? Okay. Even though I'm pretty sure many of those people don't even have TVs, but alrighty then.
Yeah, exactly.
And he just kind of went on and on and on and on and on and on, just, calling me, saying that I'm stupid and he hates me and all this stuff. And I'm like, you know what? The only thing that he's done that's pissed me off is the harassing part, because I've had worse insults. I'm like, your insults suck, but I'm like, but the fact that you won't stop commenting is getting annoying. And then I was very certain, because around the same time that he was doing this, I started getting mass dislikes on all my other videos. And so I was very certain that it was him. And that kind of just pisses me off. I don't care if you dislike my video because, maybe I made a technical faux pas. I said something that was inaccurate. Maybe my green screen was shit that day, which happens a lot. Maybe my audio was crackling. That happens a lot too. Maybe it's something that I can fix or improve on. And if you dislike it for that reason, totally get it. Perfectly fine. Or I said something unintentionally offensive, because that's also legit too. Like, I will dislike someone's video if, they turn out to be a racist prat. I will happily dislike you. But if you dislike me because I reviewed a film and you just disagree with me, that's not a point, because I never said I'm going to agree with you. I just said I'm going to review it, and I did. And if you don't agree with me, that's not my problem.
Yeah, exactly. It amazes me so much, and I'm just starting to put like podcast stuff up on YouTube again. But back when I was doing it a lot, it's crazy. Like, am I always supposed to agree with what the whatever viewer? Because if that's the case, you're looking at the wrong person, because there's so many people in the world that watches these videos. There's impossible to have the same exact like opinion on something. Hell, my wife and I, that's just two people could watch the same exact movie and get two different outcomes. Does that mean she's gonna hate me for, well, depending on movie I made her sit through, maybe. It could be what it is. But at the same time, it's like, you're not gonna get the same rating. You can survey so many people, and everybody's gonna have a different take. It's so ridiculous, these keyboard warriors or keyboard harassers who are acting all tough because they disagreed with a person's opinion. Don't watch the video then. What's the case? Goodbye. I don't need you as a person watching my stuff then. If you don't like what I say, not a problem. That's just what my opinion is. It's ridiculous. And especially going this so far of just harassing you and death threats and all the other threats you get too. That's uncalled for as well. But then keep coming back. It's like, why are you still beating this drum? Obviously, it's like it's. I'm trying not to let it affect me. Just go away, and just go away. What's the point? Yeah.
Yeah, some people really show that not only are they just nasty people, but they show that they're looking for something to be mad at. Yeah. They're looking for something to attack, because sometimes they'll say something. I'm like, wow, I don't know what mental gymnastics you had to do to get to where you're at right now, but I'm almost impressed by how stupid you are.
Yeah.
Like, I did a ranking of all the Exorcist films, and this person commented going off at me because I did not properly explain the difference between two films. Like, he said that while watching my video, he could not tell which film was which, and he had to go and look up all the things I said, and that therefore I was a terrible reviewer and I meant to explain these films. And I said, why did you come to a ranking video for a review, for starters? I didn't say this was a review. It's not anywhere in the title. Yes, I do give brief reviews, but that's only to say why it's in that place, not whether or not I like it or whether or not you should watch it. And I pointed out, and I'm like, if the fact that I not only gave you two different movie posters, then told you two different directors who made them, gave you, yes, they had the same plots, but that was really stupid. And then I give you a list of different things that happen in each film, basically telling you which one is which, and you still at the end of that can't tell the fucking difference. That's your dumbass fault, not mine.
I'm spoon feeding you all the information you need to understand what's the difference, and you still can't figure it out. That's on you, bro.
I mean, the fact that I say, well, one of them, I'm like, I don't even remember how many. What is it, like 5? And I'm like, yeah, this is the 4th film in the series. This is the 5th film in this series. I'm like, did that not help you? I told you which order they're in, but I mean, okay, I did another film, and I get a lot of views on this review because people have watched it, and to this day, nobody can understand the ending on it. We're all baffled. We all theorize, but we've all got no answers.
Yeah.
And I've had numerous people reply, leave comments and going, you didn't explain anything that happened in that film. And I'm like, A, nobody can. B, not my job. It's a review, not an ending explained video, which I don't think exists because this video is at like the 23,000 views, and all the comments are people going, yeah, I have no idea what happened at the end. And I'm like, me too. Wait, we're all the same boat. It was shit. But the fact that I'm getting yelled at because you didn't understand the film, like, but neither did I. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. I'm like, go take this up with the director, not me.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't help write this. I didn't write this film. I'm just writing my review. Jeez Louise. Gotta love the YouTube comments section. It's not the only, like, you're here seeing a lot of horror franchise, but I've talked to other people during these like sit down conversations. Like Rachel Wagner was one that got several death threats from DC fans, and then Cody Leach is another one that has gotten a lot of hate from his Halloween ranking because he kind of didn't really. I think he rated Halloween 2018 a little lower compared to other people, and he just shared his honest opinions. But all of a sudden, like everybody who loved that film, which is we both liked that one. Went after him, and it's like, dude, it's not gonna, like, it's ridiculous. These big franchises. Star Wars is another one that whenever I did my ranking a while back, it's another one. Didn't like The Last Jedi, didn't like Rogue One. Well, screw you. For now, I'm like, oh my gosh. But if I put it higher, you like those movies? Screw you. It's like, what am I supposed to do then? Like, it's I just you have to sit there and laugh as best, or at least the best you can anyway. Well,
you can't win. It's humanly impossible to win. And the fact that people want to attack you over opinions because you don't agree with them, or people who have gone to the lengths with me where they couldn't harass me on YouTube anymore, so they would actually come and harass me on Twitter, or they've actually tagged a bunch of their friends and told them to go over to my YouTube channel to harass me. And I'm just like, you dickheads know I can block you, right? Like,
idiots.
I'm like, not to mention, I'm like, if I don't like a film and I make a review of it, I'm like, there, I talked about it, the end. Because if I don't like about it, I'm not going to waste my time talking about it. I would much rather talk about the films that I do like.
Absolutely.
Because they're the ones that I want to keep going back to. But all these people, I don't understand why they can't just be happy liking what they like. Why do you have to dedicate a year, 2 years, more, less, whatever, to harassing someone because they had a different opinion to you, instead of spending that time just enjoying the show or film that you claim to enjoy? I'm not going to waste my time doing that. I like the Star Wars prequels. I know a lot of people don't. Am I going to go around bitching, oh my God, I can't believe everybody? No, I'm not. I just happily go and watch them myself and mind my own fucking business. Or if anybody else with anything else, you know, it's like, well, oh, you love those films? Those films are crap. I'm like, I don't care. I'm sitting here having a good time, and you're on the internet wasting your time bitching about stuff that is not going to do anything for you. I'm fine. I'm happy. You're sad and pathetic. Get a life.
Yeah, you're just a little crab. They go away. Jeez, you're a little crabby. Well, that's a lot of negative YouTube conversation. That's what are some of the big things that when you're coming into YouTube and posting? What's some of the really things that you really enjoy about the YouTube space and sharing your thoughts on film or TV?
I love when I end up coming across people who are sane, and I can end up having a really good dialogue with them. Like, even if we have completely polar opposite opinions, we can talk about why we like it, why we dislike it, and you're willing to hear the other person. And at times you're going to end up learning something about the film that you didn't know before, or you're going to see it in a different way, and it becomes very interesting and fascinating. And kind of when you, if you're capable, if you can see things from another person's perspective, it's almost like seeing the film again for the first time, because you're suddenly seeing it in this whole other way that you didn't before, and you're like, oh, never thought of that. It's like you still got to keep your opinion, but you just for this moment kind of get to live out something different. And I also get to have these kind of emotional conversations with people where they will tell me, like, and I'm very open about my emotions, like something that maybe brings back an old memory or something very personal to me. And someone will say, maybe this is the last film that they watched with a relative who passed away, or something that they bonded with someone very special to them. So they're like, even if maybe it's not the greatest film, they're like, but it means a lot to me for that very reason. I love hearing those kind of stories, and they're very touching, and it's why I like films, because despite the idiots of the world, I think that films really do bring people together if you have the decency and frame of mind to allow that to happen. But it's great. And then sometimes, I get to make a video and I get to kind of educate people on something that they otherwise didn't know about. And I feel really good about that. I'm like, I feel like I contributed to society in a small way.
Your prom video, by the way, that most recent video that you did, that made me first of all want to watch the movie, because I hadn't watched it. I'd been on my watch list, but then just seeing all like the different things, and now I'm gonna go watch it and see all those different colors that I probably wouldn't have picked up on that information. But I'm like, now I'm excited for that. And by the way, I'll link that video in the description box. I may have to make sure I write that down so I don't forget it. But make sure I link that, because it's an awesome video, especially if you like that Netflix film. So a great work on that, because that was a lot. I was just like watching. I was like, wow, oh my god! And they're showing like images up from it too. I'm like, that is crazy. I definitely would not have seen that. So
it was weird, and I have no way of verifying if anything that I saw is legit. And like I said, maybe I'm just saying what I want to see, but the coincidences are uncanny, even if that is the case. I mean, guaranteed, for those scenes, a lot of those colors just look really nice on screen. So that's probably all that it is. But the fact that as I'm watching it, and the fact that I just kind of in my head naturally have a lot of these LGBTQ plus flags in my head. And I was just like, as soon as I'm noticing things, and I'm like, I'm kind of noticing all the, colors of the pride flag. Like everybody seems to like be wearing one color each at a time and then I'm going along and I'm noticing other things. I'm like, could have sworn I know a flag that I'm like, isn't that the bisexual flag? Like exactly. I'm going, and then I'm like, okay, maybe I could do a video on that. And then I was going through and taking snapshots, and as I'm actually going through, I'm noticing even more. And I'm like, again, am I seeing what I want to see, or is this actually real? And I'm like, who cares? It makes for a fun video. I'm going with it.
Yeah, I'm like, it's content, and it's something that you enjoyed making too. That's fun to talk about. That's the fun thing about like the way movies, how you see film too. I thought it was super fascinating, and I was like, I don't know if I would, like I said, like again, I'm not sure if I would have saw it the first time, but now I'm gonna go look at it and just pick up all these different things because you made a video about it. So that's pretty awesome.
Yay!
Yeah. So when you're making all these I don't want to take too much of your time because I'm almost up. We're getting up there, but I want to ask two more questions for you.
I'm fine. Take time. I'm all good.
Okay, no problem. So as you're joining the YouTube space, has there been a specific like video that you're like the most proud of, and what has been the kind of a video that's been really hard to make, but you also find great pride in making it?
I love that question, because for me, at the moment, my favorite videos to make that I feel like really proud about are my story behind videos. where I look at the true stories that inspired certain films to be made. I've done the real story behind Winchester. And in that, I actually got to, by telling the real story, I got to not only debunk everything that they addressed in the film, which did not happen, and then they called a true story.
Yeah.
But I also got to, debunk a lot of myths that have just been kind of going around before the film ever existed, where they're like, yeah, the Winchester is the most haunted house in America. And I'm like, no, actually, it's not. That got debunked a long time ago. It's not haunted at all.
Yeah.
So that that was the first one I did, and I was so proud about that. And then I did the true story behind Annabelle, because I actually was a fan of following the career of Ed and Lorraine Warren. So I have books where they talked about the Annabelle case, and I thought it was really fascinating. So like the little like prequel parts in The Conjuring, that part was accurate, but the actual Annabelle films held no basis in reality. They're all just absolute fiction.
Yeah.
And not that great. I said it. And then I
enjoyed Annabelle Creation, but yeah,
Annabelle Creation was better than Annabelle. Like, I praise David F. Sandberg for trying to right the ship.
True.
But the ship had already hit the iceberg, and we are slowly sinking. So
yeah. We'll see how Conjuring 3 goes this next year. We'll see.
Fingers crossed, because I love the Conjuring films.
Yeah.
But after that, I did the true story behind the character of Hannibal Lecter. So the actual person that Hannibal Lecter is kind of inspired by and based off of, which was that involved the most research, because I actually had to go and dive into really old Mexican newspaper articles, and then I had to go and contact people I knew who spoke Spanish. I'm like, can you translate these things for me, please? Because I wanted to get my facts as accurate as I could, because there were a lot of different things that were written about it, and each one contradicted the other, including like one online newspaper where they wrote 3 articles about the same case in the span of 3 days, and every single one had a different story. And I'm like, wow, your editors suck. And then I did the true story behind The Entity. That was interesting as well. And the most recent one I did was the true story behind the film Scream, and how Scream was inspired by a real life serial killer. And I actually thought that was common knowledge. I thought everybody knew that, but everybody was in my comments going, oh my God, I had no idea this was based on a real person. I'm like, oh, well, yay. Like, yay, I educated you, but sorry, I kind of depressed you about this film now.
Yeah, you really are the movie oracle.
Well, I tried.
Yeah. And was there well, you actually just answered it. The hard, difficult one to make that you're really proud of. That was the Hannibal Lecter one. I would take it. Yeah, that was cool. I didn't even know that you had that's all that research to do those. That maybe we want to go back and rewatch some of them too. Yeah. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's why I don't do them too often, because I do have to like stop and do a lot of research, and then I have to. It's not just like go to one website, like go to Wikipedia, copy what they say. Wikipedia is not always correct, and I want to get as many details as I can. So I have to go to several different sites, dive into newspaper archives, and then I have to try to compare them all to each other to try to find that nugget of truth that is strung together. Because if there's too many contradictions, I don't want to include the contradictions, because I don't want to say anything that could possibly be false. Or if so, I will have to, do the old reporter trick of saying allegedly. Because I don't have the exact proof. I was not there. I did not experience this. But yeah, I love making those videos. They don't really do that well, which bums me out because I work so hard on them.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, they're the ones that once I make them, I have that sense of accomplishment. I'm like, I feel like I actually did something, and I feel like my high school English teachers would be so proud of me.
Awesome.
And stuff like that. Unlike, my most viewed video is my top 10 emotional One Piece moments, which I love how well it's done. And I love the people who comment going, I just cried for 30 minutes. And I'm like, yes. Because it is emotional and we're all going to cry. And if you don't, you have no heart. But not only is that video not monetized, I got so many strikes trying to put that video up and trying to combat that. And ultimately, it's not the only part of that video I have any like real pride in is the fact that I was able to give right on the screen a backstory for each scene that I'm showing. Trying to break down hundreds and hundreds of emotional episodes into a paragraph, that is a challenge, and I think I did a damn good job. So at that, I'm like, bloody hell, I was good. But the rest is I'm just showing a clip from the show, and that doesn't take any creativity, but it has a shit ton of views, so I will take it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the exposure.
Exactly.
My last question for you, at least for this time, the 2021 right around the corner. What are some of your goals looking at your YouTube channel or your like film criticism goals for the upcoming year?
I would like to try and be more active with my reviews. I really slacked off this year, and the pile of movies that I tended to watch and review have gotten staggeringly high. And I'm just like, oh, crap. Now it's kind of daunting to have to watch all of these and then review them, and I feel exhausted already. But I definitely want to try and do more of that. I really was trying to also focus on growing my Patreon, because there are things that I do on my Patreon that I don't do on my channel, and they're always fun for me. But I'm just, growth is important to me. It's not about, how many likes you get, how many views I get, because if I get views and kind of no interactions, it doesn't feel like I did anything.
Yeah.
Like I like being able to interact with people and have those conversations and dialogues. And when I don't get them and I'm like, it's like that old proverb, like if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound if nobody's there? It's like kind of like that, like how I feel about YouTube. I mean, and trying to combat the constant changes in YouTube policy that getting harder and harder for all of us. Yet never seems to get harder for the big YouTubers. That never happens. No.
I kind of forgot after taking time off and coming back now, putting stuff out sporadic. I'm like, this is tough. I was like, I forgot, man, this is this is challenging and frustrating at times too. But it's like, well, it's out there now, so we'll do what I can do.
I want to try and get into doing more live videos, because that means that right there I get to interact with people. But my only concerns is I get really nervous when I have to do anything live. Like the anxiety kicks in, as opposed to doing a camera where I can edit it and all my fuck ups are gone and I'm perfectly fine. But also I'm concerned with my technology. But if that wasn't a thing, I would definitely, if I didn't have those concerns, I would be doing a lot more live videos, because I have like all the bits and pieces that I want to include, and I think that I can have fun with it. But just trying to get past technical issues and confidence issues. Those are my two little hurdles that I have to get past.
Well, I guess it's a bad time to say that we were live today. So no, I'm just kidding. We weren't live.
No,
you were so confident. You were great.
It's easier when you're like talking to somebody else, but when you're just by yourself and you have to lead the whole thing.
And
also what makes it really awkward is when you have it's whenever you're live, there is a lag between when you get someone's message versus when you said what they're responding to. So that moment where you're like waiting for the comments to come in and you just kind of sitting there silent, looking like an idiot. I'm like, I don't like those. I don't like those at all. But if you're like talking to someone else, there's like never really any dead air. And so that's okay. There was actually a project I had originally planned to start this year, and the first thing was going to be on YouTube, and then the rest it was going to be a Patreon series. But I didn't have the necessary tech to do what I really wanted to do, so I've kind of had to go with the kind of less impressive version. But I still intend to at least do the original video, and I've started filming it. I've posted little snippets online. I've shown a couple friends and a couple friends who are directors, and I'm like, this is what I've done. Do you like this? And I've gotten good feedback so far. So I'm hoping when I put that little project out onto YouTube, people will like it, because I wanted to do something different, and B, I just wanted to show that I have a couple extra skills aside from just sitting in front of a camera and talking. I wanted to show that I could do just a little bit more than that. I would have liked to have shown one of my other talents in that video, but alas, like I said, I don't have the tech equipment to allow myself to do that. God damn it.
Damn it. Oh, well. Well, hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to do that as well. So, but that sounds like a lot of cool stuff coming. Fingers crossed. Anyway, guys, we'll wrap it up for this time, but I definitely think that maybe a Showgirls like a first time watch episode with Ashley should be a fun. That'd be fun. I've done it that way. Maybe something else too. It's something else. Anyway, with that said, Ashley, one last time, where can we find you on YouTube and social media?
You can find me, The Movie Oracle, on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being a part of this episode. Until next time, my name is Adam, and we'll see you later.